Welcome to A Billion Realities, where we explore all topics related to spirituality, psychology, and the power of the mind. And now your host, Jessica Gerlach.
PodcastCadet.com provides a one-on-one private consultation for anyone, whether you are just starting or already have a podcast that you want to take to the next level. They have the professionals to help you. Visit PodcastCadet.com today and use the code REALITY20 to save 20% off your entire purchase. I've personally used this service, and I can assure you, you will not be disappointed.
Today on the show, we are speaking to a self-taught African filmmaker who runs a one-stop shop indie film production company called Blayz Productions, who goes by the name Johnny Blaze. An award-winning filmmaker who wears many hats as writer, producer, cinematographer, editor, director, voice actor, colorist, music composer, and casting director, Johnny continues to grow and evolve in the entertainment industry, producing independent features and shorts of all genres. His style is most definitely unique, incorporating deep messages and insights that you won't often see coming. His clever twists and turns really get you on the edge of your seat, and his use of dark humor is exceptional. Johnny Blaze, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica.
My pleasure, my pleasure. And just so our listeners know, where are you joining us from today?
Oh, actually, I'm in Stone Mountain, Georgia, Atlanta. Yeah.
Beautiful. I have some friends down there too, and they're also in the film industry, so that's very cool.
Very good.
And where did you grow up?
Oh, originally I grew up in West Africa, Ghana, to be specific. And then I wrote the SAT and got accepted into Morehouse College, and that's how I wound up in Georgia, and I haven't left ever since. Yeah.
That's awesome. Really cool. And can you tell us a little bit about your cultural background and how does that influence your work?
Well, when I first came to like Morehouse, I was originally going to be a business finance major because from Africa, it's just not happening to branch off into film. You'd have to want to be a lawyer or a doctor or anything like that. So that's what all my family members were rooting for me to do. But I realized that that wasn't for me, and so I had to branch off and do it by myself. And I guess me just staying on that road is what had everyone else kind of just say, you know what, let's just support me either way, because I wasn't really trying to go with the norm like everyone else. Like that's what they come to America to become, doctors, lawyers, and all that good stuff. But
right.
I decided to be, take a risk with filmmaking, and I've loved it ever since. I haven't turned back yet.
Good for you. That's such an inspiration, especially for people, like you said, who are kind of pushed in a direction that you're not really passionate about, but you decided to follow your passion. So I absolutely love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
How early on would you say that you became interested in filmmaking, and what were some of your earliest inspirations?
Well, I'd say all my life, because even as a child, I was always a storyteller. So I'd have like a bunch of kids, like they'd gather up around me, and I'd have the weirdest stories, and I guess they were good because they'd gather up again the next day. So I kept that going throughout, most of my earlier years. And also, I guess I can say I was lucky to have a father who was obsessed with movies. So way before like DVDs and VHS, there were Betamax tapes, and we had like hundreds of them all over the house. So I'd have to watch all the old films with, John Wayne, Yul Brynner, Gregory Peck, Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier. I grew up watching all their movies. So I had a sense of what good filmmaking was, like what makes people happy, sad, keeps them on the edge of their seats. And I just grew up with that. I just guess I wanted to just delve in more. And that's what I'm doing now. But yeah, I got to see the early stuff, and it's the same too. Like the stuff they did back in the day, it's the same method in today's films. They just tweak it a little bit, but it's the same thing. So
That is
that's
so
how.
interesting. So you were the storytellers. Okay, so it's basically just in you. So this is a natural thing for you.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'd say that. It's an Africans like to tell stories, so I'd say it's also based on all that too. Around the
Beautiful.
fireside and all that. Yeah.
Well, one of my best friends is in Atlanta also. He's from New York, but he's originally from Liberia, and he's also a filmmaker. And yeah, he's an excellent storyteller. But um,
Hmm.
how did you start out in this industry? Like, what was your first kind of, practice project?
Well, let me see. Although my first film, which was actually a feature film, was the last October 7th. But prior to that, I had no experience in writing. So I remember when I was in Morehouse, I dropped the business finance and took English, and I jumped into literature. I started loving all of that. So I became self-taught writing, and I wrote that script. I had no idea how to shoot it or edit it. So I had a friend, shout out to the DP at the time, Sony Ado. He helped me out. He shot it and he put it together for me. And that was my first film. It's definitely not my best, but it helped me get to where I am because I've learned a lot ever since then. But yeah, it would be that film, the last October 7th, and we released that one in 2010. It was about HIV and stuff. I was trying to bring some awareness towards that.
Wow, that is amazing. Well, this industry is all about, evolving and learning experiences, right? So every time you just get stronger and stronger with it. And
Mhm.
you wear an impressive amount of hats in this industry. So what is your favorite part about your craft?
I would say editing. Editing is my strength, because and also with everything else I do, I had to do it. And I tell this to all filmmakers who are coming in that you will have to master as many crafts as possible because that would help your budget immensely. So for me, I knew that I'd have to my lighting is okay. My sound engineering, my writing, my editing, it's pretty good. So I'd say editing first. That's my strength, and then my weakness would probably be lighting. So I always find a great lighting director, and yeah, also sound. I have the best sound guy in Georgia. But yeah, these are my strengths and my weaknesses. But editing is my number one passion. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. What would you say have been some of your biggest challenges in the film business?
I'd say it's challenges. Well, let me see. I guess I'd say the financial part of it, but then again, I found a way around it where instead of doing the big risky feature films and losing so much money, especially which is not your money, other people's money, I started doing short films. So I'd say it'd be the financial part of it. And also with filmmaking, you get to meet a whole bunch of people. And sorry to say, but a lot of them want to just, manipulate you and have you on their thing and then kind of like drain you and stuff. So you have to always be very wary and know what kind of people to get into scenarios with. So it's always been about actually avoiding those people who are not really trying to help you, but just basically just, you know, drain you for what they think might work. And so
Right.
I always just try to find the right energy and the right people to, fuse with. And that's what I've been blessed to do so far. Yeah.
So true and such a good point. And it's, the industry is filled with vampires of all kinds. But there's a
Oh,
lot
yes.
a lot of great people there too. But like you said, you just really have to kind of develop a thick skin and also kind of, sixth sense.
Yes. Be able to navigate through it all. And it's not that hard. A couple of bad experiences, you'll get to know what to look out for. Definitely. Yeah.
So true, so true. So let's talk about adversity. Have you faced any major adversities in your life or even in your career, and how did you handle that?
Well, in the beginning, I used to be like very depressed when things wouldn't go well. As far as you have a big premiere, you've rented a location, you've begged all the actors to promote the film, and 50 people show up. You can't even pay anyone, and those things would always make me feel like, I guess, like giving up and all that stuff. But then when I matured into all of this, I realized that just the process alone of creating should be enough to give me the joy I need. So right now, for me, it's not really even about making a film that would get 1 million views or get me a film deal, but the fact that I get to actually create and meet people that have the same passion, and we're doing it together. We wind up with only 5 views and 2 likes, but we've been able to connect to those 5 people. And so for me, the whole process now is just a blessing. I look at nothing as like an adversity anymore, but just actually something that might even push me to the next good thing. So there are no bad things. There is no adversity. It's all just good in my mind. That's how I process everything now.
I love your perspective. That's really amazing. So speaking of reaching, people, you're known for incorporating some deep messages into your projects. Do you feel that some of it surpasses some people's level of comprehension, or do most of them usually get it all?
No. Yeah, I guess I'd say some people, for a while, people started thinking I was even losing my mind with some of my subject in the films I do, because, because when you delve in, it gets very dark and all that. But I've always wanted to have that edge as a filmmaker. I did all the genres before. I did the romance, the comedies, the dramas, but that's just like everyone else. So I always want to do the things that people don't really talk about, the really daring, dark ones and stuff. And yeah, it's been mixed reviews. I mean, I have a small audience and I'm okay with that, but for the whole general point of it, a lot of people are not really ready for most of my stuff.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
of course. I totally feel you on that. And I'm actually really heavily interested in a lot of the topics that you cover. And I've been researching some of that stuff for like 15 years now. So I was really impressed to see that you mentioned people like, David Icke, David Wilcock, and I was just like, oh, no way. I'm like, he's in the know.
And I don't know if it's you, but someone added me on Facebook a few years ago, and I always go on people's pages to look at it, and I saw this video with David Wilcock. And it was about him talking about the Illuminati and stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's what just propelled me into all of this stuff, because the strange thing about it, and I'll get a little personal with it, is that my father used to be big on the dark arts. Like, he was really into black magic on a huge level. Like, he made a lot of money from it. He was in the big secret societies, and he was really big on that stuff.
Wow.
So I'm watching this video with David Wilcock, and the stuff he's saying, is no different than the things I was hearing all the way deep in the jungles of Africa about, the entities and the rules that they have to abide by. And I was like, when I heard rules, it was even more extraordinary for me, because now I know that there is a greater power that actually has rules set up, that you can play around with this realm and all that, but you still have to abide by these rules. So I started going into David Wilcock, David Icke, Max Egan, and I was just blown away with all the information they had. If it's true or not, it was still entertaining, and I could use that to make some intriguing films, So that's my whole thing, to just, mix it up with fiction and fact, and it's up to you, the viewer, to go and do your own research and pull what you want from it. But from what I'm doing, it's mostly fiction.
Right.
Yeah.
With some influence of the truth, right. So speaking of that, in your project, The Seed of the Soul, which is one of my favorites, by the way, you touch on some intense topics like witchcraft, voodoo, star seeds, the secrets of the Vatican, reptilian shapeshifters, vampires, the secret cabal, control, war, and the light and the dark side of humanity. So can you elaborate on how those specific topics ended up in that one film, and what is your insight into those concepts?
Well, now it's changed a lot since then, because I thought I knew so much then, and now I'm actually realizing that I haven't even scratched the surface yet. But when I read on what stuff like David Wilcock and Max Eden and David Icke had to say, I had to do my research, and there was so much stuff about it. Like, there is this theory about the secret cabal that's controlling the world and the Illuminati, and when it comes to witchcraft, I know for a fact that it's real, because they do all that in Africa.
Yep.
big time. Like they're sacrificing animals, and people actually really get rich and gain power. And in exchange, they probably can't have sex for some time. They can't take showers for some days, and it's weird. But they actually have this pact with entities in another realm. If
Yep.
it's true or not, for me, it was entertaining. And so I always let people know that I'm just going more for the entertainment side of it. But for you as the viewer, again, go ahead and do your own research. But I was just intrigued with all of those stories. I'm not locked into one religion like Christianity, but I do believe in God, like a higher supreme being that's
Yeah.
out there. But I just don't think it's going straight to Christianity or Islam or Buddhism. So with all that information, I was just growing as a filmmaker and learning more things. And yeah, I just wanted to just share it with people because I just felt that it was edgy and dark, but then also informative because
Yeah.
choose if you want to be on the side of darkness or on the side of light. You know, do you want to love people or do you want to make a lot more money and gain power? It's up to you, but here's the material for that. Yeah.
So cool. I think that you and I are on the same page with a lot of what you just said, actually. And I'm like a truth seeker, so I'm constantly researching things. And I'm like, well, I know one thing. One thing I know for sure is that I don't know shit. And that
We don't.
and that there's
Yeah.
so much more to learn. Every time I research one thing, it just leads me down a whole other path. I'm just like, oh my God.
And one thing I want to say too with that is that I'm not going to say that everything that David Wilcock has said is true. Sometimes some people might have their own interpretations of things. So I always just say pick what you can from each person, process it, do your research, and then you can make your own decisions. But just don't go entirely based on what one individual might say, because
Yeah.
sometimes I know for a fact now the ego in all of us can mislead us sometimes into think that we know so much, and we start creating our own truth, mixing it up with stuff, and it's hard to tell the difference. So you
Yeah.
have to just really discern that carefully sometimes. Yeah.
I think discernment is key. And like I've talked to a few other people, like spiritual community friends, and they're like,
Mhm.
the truth is always the truth. So if you can calm your mind or clear your mind or meditate or whatever it is that you want to do, pray, whatever you're into, sometimes
Yeah.
certain things will resonate and you just know, you just feel it,
True.
So
Yeah.
interesting. I just love everything that everything you're talking about here. So, as we've already covered, like your projects carry these deep messages and some of them are very spiritual in nature. So is that something high on your priority list when you're creating a project?
It wasn't before, but now it's like all I'm about, and it's so sad because I have people coming up with like great scripts for like action movies and love stories, and I'm like, no, I don't want to shoot that. Like I have to shoot something that has a very powerful spiritual meaning, but then not locked into religion, but then still something that we can all connect to. Because there is so much that we don't know and that we're not informed about. So for me, I feel that the best way to pass it on is to entertain you with that information. It'll be 5 minutes of action, but there's a 2 second in there that has this information that could probably help you out. Like how we take things so seriously in life, and how we just stress over the small things, and we think that we matter when actually we really don't even matter that much. And if you don't look at yourself and put yourself in that high regard, you start to take life a lot more. You don't really take it too rough when things don't go your way. You actually look at it like a blessing instead of a curse. So little things like that, I just want to just implement in all my films to have a better purpose. Let's go past just shocking you with a explosion scene. Let's have something that can connect to you internally. That's what I'm trying to do now with all my films.
I think that's why I really like your work, and especially the links that you sent me. I really connect with it. So here's one that I think is super interesting. Your project about microdosing with psilocybin mushrooms for addiction. Why was that project important to you?
Well, so far, like up to now, that is my most important project I've worked on because it's crazy. When I was doing the whole research with David Wilcock and David Icke and Max Egan, I was digging deep into darkness. And I was finding some things that were troubling because you were finding out about these great people in the world who are actually in to some, I guess, pact with other entities, and it was getting very dark. And through all that darkness, I wound up stumbling on psilocybin mushrooms, and that was for me light and more positivity. So I had to go through the darkness and wind up here, and that's how I found people like Ram Dass, Terrence McKenna, Deepak Chopra, and a lot of people that had the same messages, but then they were giving you more of a relief to everything else. Like, it's not all darkness, but there is light, and that's actually even more powerful. And that light needs darkness but to cut it short and get straight into it, I wound up learning about psilocybin mushrooms, and they were being researched by a lot of people. I'm going to mention this guy's name so people can look him up, called James Fadiman. He was the first person I heard talking about microdosing.
Okay.
And so before I wanted to write anything about microdosing, I will be honest, I had to actually make sure that it worked, because I like to have a lot of truth in my projects. What I did was, last year, I somehow wound up with some magic mushrooms. And what James Fadiman says is that you have to have intentions.
I saw that in your film. Okay.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try the hardest thing. And my intention, because at the time I was smoking cigarettes a lot. I could do 2 packs in like 2 days.
Okay.
So that was a lot of cigarettes, because I'd get stressed out, and it helps when I'm angry and all that stuff. So I said I would like to quit smoking cigarettes. And in 2 days, it was Halloween. I had my Michael Myers mask on, and I started hearing this voice in my head. This is after I'd microdosed, telling me how I'd stopped smoking so far and that we could keep on going. And long story short, I haven't smoked a cigarette in over a year now.
What?
I have no cravings for it. I can't even understand how it's possible that I was literally smoking one after every meal, and now I have no love for them. So I did more research, and I realized that psilocybin mushrooms do break habits, because they just, in some way, they know what you need and what you don't need, and they fix that for you. They're not always going to do that. It's still up to you, the individual, to know what you want.
Yeah.
But they definitely would help get you there. Now, they are illegal, so I'm not going to promote the use and all that stuff for it. But I'm just saying, from a personal experience, I saw what they did for me. And for that alone, I felt that it was important for me to implement that in most of my films now. So you'll be seeing a lot more of those in my projects from now on.
Wow. So that's so fascinating to me. And I've done them many times in the past, by the way. But I don't really look at them as a drug, to be honest with you. Personally, I just don't. And I've had amazing experiences on them. And it's been a long time since I've done them. But I would absolutely consider doing the microdosing for any type of addiction. I'm also a hypnotherapist, so I work with people with the subconscious mind to break habits or to recover from emotional traumas, abuse, and things like that. So I've heard a lot about this microdosing, and I fully support it. So I thought that was so cool that you had a project about that. And let me ask you this. It was part of a series that you're doing, correct?
Yes, it was. And I have like more stories for that, but I'm just kind of like taking my time with them, not to just rush into stuff. I want to have a lot more truth in. Like, back to James Fadiman, he has 1,000 true stories that people email to him about what happens to them when they microdose. Wow. So I'm literally stealing. And the good thing about it, he's watched that episode of mine and he liked it. And I I sent it to him on Facebook. He watched it. He gave me his personal email, wanted to know more things about what I found, because he's gathering so much information about it. But he mentioned that the reason why he promotes microdosing and not macrodosing is because when you do a macrodose, oh yes, you will find who your true self is and you will find that enlightenment, but it's so brief. You can't really bring that back with you when you come back from a trip. It's very rarely, but when you microdose, it stays with you all throughout everything you're doing, and it becomes who you are eventually. So he always promotes that more than macrodosing. But I always tell people, either or, you're definitely in for a new life after that. So cool. I encourage that too for other people.
What are some of your own personal favorite projects that you've created?
Well, there've been a lot of them. Like right now, the very last one I did, which was on microdosing, was that. But now I'm working on something called the Trip Sitter, which deals more with macro dosing. And it's interesting that, I do microdose, and I microdose with one of my intentions being to become a better filmmaker. And it's interesting how I've actually gotten a little better. And so this film I'm working on now is probably going to look and sound better than everything I've done in the past. And I don't know if it's because of this or not, but yeah, I'd say this particular one I'm working on now, which is called the Trip Sitter. And I'll definitely share it with you when it's done. It should be done like another month from now.
Cannot wait. And I have a friend who kicked a cocaine habit from microdosing too.
Wow. You see, and some people think that that's impossible. Like they were like, when I brought up my thing about cigarettes, they're like, oh, everybody quit cigarettes. I'm like, yeah, but I was pretty hooked on them. So it's interesting how you within yourself just stop. And it's like people are going to, I'm not knocking AA meetings and stuff, but people are actually paying for therapy and going to these, a lot of things when you can actually just meditate and just really connect with your true self and shut it all down if you want to, if you really want to. And that's so profound to me. Yeah.
I agree. And this guy was heavy into it. He said he got to the point where he was like, if I can't find a way to stop doing this, I'm going to lose everything. He knew that he was about to lose everything. He was going down hard. He couldn't stop doing cocaine, just couldn't stop, even though he knew that.
Wow.
And then he ended up microdosing, and he's never touched it since.
Wow.
Yeah.
And even with microdosing, I can even share this. Like James Fadiman had women who were writing to him about having cramps when it's time for their period, and it stopped when they were microdosing. I'm like, it's endless what this sacred molecule does to people. I mean, it's like the list goes on and on. Like people start eating healthier, people start loving each other more, and I always let people know it don't just think also that it will do all the work for you, because you can't delve into it and just assume that it will fix everything. You will have to put some of the work in yourself too, if you really, really want that. So it has to be a 50-50 thing with those.
I agree. I think that's true in many cases. For example, even when I'm doing hypnotherapy, I'm like, are you ready to change this? Do you really want this? Then we can work together. But like you said, there's a lot of work you have to do on your own. But, I think with something like these mushrooms and the microdosing, I think it's putting people back in touch with their soul, which honestly, in the society we live in, it kind of, pollutes our soul and makes us lose contact with our higher self. So it makes sense.
And that's what's so interesting. I think that that's actually the whole point of everything. I think that life is like a big game that we're playing on ourselves, where we've made ourselves so connected to this earth, where we want to make money and have a good life and everything. But then there's a little part in us that just wants to just love and be of peace. But that's tucked in so far behind, because you have to figure that out with all these temptations and all these things around you. And then so some people can find it with, religion, definitely. Some people definitely can find it there. But for some people also, I'm sorry to say, it's in psychedelics. They actually, they destroy the ego, and you stop thinking about just yourself. And you realize that there's so much more, and it actually involves having unconditional love for everyone, even people that you cannot stand, and it's genuine.
I love that. Would you say that you experienced some sort of ego death during that process of microdosing, or were you already kind of over the ego thing before that?
Oh no, I was always the guy who wanted to be the hottest filmmaker. I'm going to show everybody. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make the best films ever. So full of myself. And then I experienced what psilocybin would show me that, dude, I mean, seriously, you don't even really matter in what's going on right now. Like, you're just a little piece of it. So enjoy waking up every morning and breathing and stuff. Thank God for that. you know, but don't look for the other big things. Because I had a big ego. My wife's going to kill me for sharing this, but I'll go ahead and share it anyway. I did 5 grams of dried magic mushrooms, or penis envy mushrooms, actually, which is the strongest kind. I wanted to get an ego death.
Yeah.
I was gone. I got to meet my soul. We had conversations. I was told how in every single human being, there's a little part in us that has evil. And with this part of us, it's easy to be accessible to these entities that just use us. And we're thinking that we're the ones who have all this rage and anger in us, but we're just a vessel for so much things that we cannot see with our eyes. We think that it's all us, but it has you thinking you want to be powerful, you want to be rich, you want to have all the women, you want to have everything in the world, when deep down you don't want these things. They don't matter at all. So I experienced the craziest ego death ever. And sad part is when I came back from the trip, I was right back in my ego. Like, oh, how can I go back to being the best filmmaker in the world? So I know what's out there, but I have to now work on that myself to not be in that. Because when you stay in those moments, you get trapped. But when you just enjoy them as they come and go and don't hold on to anything, because the only thing that's real is now. No past, no future. It's all about now. If you can learn to ride that wave, you'll enjoy life a lot better. Don't hold on to anything if you can. I mean,
beautiful.
Awesome. Try not to. Yeah.
Connection over attachment, right?
Yes, I'm all for that now.
That's so cool. I mean, your journey is so interesting. What are some of the audience's favorite projects that you've done, and why?
Well, I did do one earlier called Subject 24. It was about this superhuman soldier kind of thing, and it had a lot of visual effects in there. So I realized that people, with what Marvel and Disney is doing now, people like to see the fancy, cool things happen. You know, the teleportations and the lasers coming out your eyes and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I will probably go back into those eventually, but that's what people like to see, the really cool, you know, sci-fi things that you can't see every day. So the drama is good, the comedy is good, but for most people, they want to really escape into a whole other realm. So that's what I'm going to start incorporating too in some of my films. More visual effects, I'd say.
Very cool. Oh, I'm bouncing around, but let me jump back to this real quick. What do you think about ayahuasca compared to the mushrooms?
So I have not tried that, but everyone says that if mushrooms were just regular painkillers, ayahuasca is the actual surgery you'll be going through. Like that's way higher than that. But I haven't tried them before, but I do know that those are a step ahead. Like
okay.
I heard that because when you on a real mushroom trip, you actually sometimes can have communication with some entities. It's weird, but I hear with ayahuasca, you're actually communicating with colors and shapes and languages that you probably don't even understand, but you do understand. So it's something else. But then it also helps with the habits. People stop drinking, stop smoking after those trips. You know, my sister is bipolar. She's doing much better now. But I said if she ever has another episode, I'm sending her straight to Costa Rica and we're getting her some ayahuasca.
Yes, I have.
You've got it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay.
Oh,
I was gonna say, have you tried ayahuasca, if I may ask?
I haven't, but I would love to. I actually have friends who hold retreats in Costa Rica. They're from Toronto, but they moved to Costa Rica. And I have another friend from the US who goes there. Actually, he does Peru, I think. But anyway, whatever it is, I have a group of friends who actually hold the retreats there with shamans, you know. And the things that they've told me, the one guy I had on my show, we did an entire episode about it. And he's done it, I don't even know how many times, 13, 14 times. And he's super in touch with his spirit. And it's just been crazy what he experienced, you know.
Well, whoever he is, he's very brave. I'll give him that. Very brave.
Yeah. And now he helps other people go through the process because it can be overwhelming.
And I want everyone to know this too, that don't really, I tried to have a trip with just mushrooms by myself. It's the worst thing. I would always say if you have a sitter or a professional or a shaman, someone who can help guide you through, it makes it the best. But if you want to go in by yourself, you can, but it's a lot more scarier because you have to approach this also with respect. And I'd say always do it the right way. Have a professional who knows how to guide you in and guide you back out. You know,
That's
either way you're coming, either way you will come back and you will be okay. But
yeah.
it will be a rough ride if you have no support. Yeah.
I think that's great advice. It's really good that you're throwing that out there, because I think having somebody, a spiritual guide with you, a person who, you know, or like an expert or anything, that's really good advice. So where do you get your ideas from for a film, and how do they come to you?
Well, before it was always about what was working. You know, I always do the Quentin Tarantino's films work because he has that dark comedy thing going on. And when you have no budget, you can do those. I know people wanted to see the action, the whole martial arts things going on, so I do that. But when I started microdosing, it's so weird that I had a voice that kept saying, hey, forget all that, just write about us, which is the mushrooms, because we have a ton of stuff to cover. So now that's where most of my things gear towards. But, you know, I'd say now it's just inspiration from the mushroom, I guess I would say. Like what comes from them is what I do. Yeah,
Very
that makes
cool.
sense. Yeah.
It does, for sure. Yeah, your inspiration gets sparked up. So what type of mindset do you feel is necessary to be a filmmaker? Not everybody can do it.
Yeah, and I would say if you're really trying to make a lot of money and be successful, it's not for you because there's so many hardships that you have to experience and go through, a lot of heartbreaks and everything. And it has to be about the process that excites you. You know, writing, casting, finding locations, you know, color grading, composing the music. These should be the things that excite you. But for those, I would, because I look at Hollywood, and you know, I used to want to be the guy who'd wind up in Hollywood with the big deals. But now I'm researching and find out these guys, you know, your film is owned by someone. You are owned by someone. You can't really work on that project. You have to shoot that particular film, and you have to direct this film starring that guy. Independently right now, with the way it is with me, I write when I want, I shoot when I want, and I do it how I want, and I'm happy doing it that way. It's not made me the richest person yet, because but it's made me very happy. So I'd say just try and love the process and then go with the flow. And if it's meant for you, trust me, you'll have that phone call. Someone will knock on your door. But don't go in thinking that it's just going to happen overnight and you'll be a star. You have to genuinely love the process and just dedicate yourself to it. And I think that should help anyone, because I'm still learning and I'm still loving every part of it. So
yeah, it's all about the journey.
it
So
is.
I thought your project, The Assassin in Love, was extremely clever. Can you tell us about that project and what inspired it?
Oh, again, my wife will kill me when she finds out. But my wife used to come home every day complaining about this one lady at her job who she could not stand. And I would have to listen to it every single day. And I was like, why don't I just find this lady and kill her? But I mean, I'm just being funny, of course. But then that's how I was like, what if I was that crazy enough to find her? And if I end her problem, maybe that'll end my problem. But I decided to make it a comedy. And surprisingly, a lot of people were actually they were able to relate to it, because a lot of women do have that one, lady at their job that they cannot stand, and who they talk to about it, their boyfriends or their husbands, and they just go in. So for me, that was me just getting. I killed that lady through my film. I didn't kill her really, because that's a bad thing to do. But through the whole fictional world of movies, I did that with that. But that's what inspired me to write that particular script.
The best part was the end. Can I say it?
Oh, yes, you can.
Yeah, the end where, you took care of that one lady. The one problem was gone, but then there was a new one. It was like, okay. It was like the glimpse into the never-ending tale of...
And what I was trying to tell people with that part is that we can't fix other people's problems. We can try and help out, but for things to get solved and fixed, it would have to be that person within themselves fixing it and solving it. So him doing what he did, all that external stuff, it never helped, because she's maybe just has to figure out what her triggers are, how to work on it herself. So we
Right.
can't make people happy. They can make themselves happy if they know how. But we can only help a little bit.
Very insightful, and that film really portrayed that concept. So it's really cool. What would you say is your overall purpose as a filmmaker?
I guess, well, for most people that watch films, they watch it for that escape. So I would like to be the guy who did some stuff where you're having a bad day, you watch this, you get to have a little insight to feel better. And so it's more about sharing these moments with people where they can feel the entertainment and have some relief and say, oh, that was funny or that was suspenseful. And we get to share that moment because that's what makes us humans, the emotions, anger, fear and all that stuff. So we get to experience it for those few minutes and it's all fictional. It wasn't a real murder. It was just make believe. And we can experience those things. And then for that moment, I think that's what I would like to leave behind, but more on the positive side now. I'm gearing away from the negative stuff now to do more positive things, but still be shrouded with, all the things that help make a good movie. But then that way, then when I'm dead and gone and you get to wind up seeing some of my stuff on YouTube, you'd say, hey, that's kind of inspiring. And that for me would be great wherever I'll be after I'm dead and gone.
That's cool. One of my questions actually for you later on in the interview was, is legacy important to you? So you basically just summed it up. So that's awesome. So legacy is definitely important to you.
Actually, I would say no. It cannot
Really?
be. If it can't not be important to me, because then I would be working towards having a great legacy. Like right now, I'm only working towards just creating, having fun, and creating. People might watch it, people might not watch it. But if I put that pressure on me or leave the legacy behind, I'll be so fueled to sign that deal, work with that person, take this person's money, working towards that. I cannot have a goal in the future if I'm only saying the present is all that's important. So I like to just go with what happens. I might wind up never having anyone see my films. I'll still be okay. I like it, but if it doesn't happen, it wasn't for me. But I cannot attach myself to what I'd even want to happen in the future. That would be too much pressure on me.
Very interesting. I was thinking legacy because of the positive, influence in the films and that, but you explain that really well. It makes sense.
And there are other filmmakers out there too who do the same thing. So we're all having a piece of the pie. We're all doing what we can to help. But it's not just So
I hear you. Very interesting. How important would you say building relationships has been for you working in this industry?
Oh, it's one of my number one things. I mean, there's probably only one person in the whole Georgia who doesn't like me when it comes to filmmaking. That's because I recorded his stage play and I mistakenly deleted it, and he hates my guts because of that. But other than that one person, I have maintained a perfect relationship with everyone. As far as actors, producers, there have been some letdowns and some disappointments and stuff, but I try to make up for it. Like most of my actors I work with, I might not pay you the most money, but I'll feed you, I'll give you the reel, and if you need me for something where I'm not charging you money, I'm your guy, So I've learned to exchange favors. Instead of paying you, I'll pay you with another favor. And I've managed to do that for the past 10 years, and I've maintained very good relations with a lot of people. And I work with everybody, too. I always tell people I'm a African filmmaker, but I'm not going to just do African films or Black films or work with only, straight people. I work with straight, gay, white, Black, tall, short, Democrat, Republican, everybody, because it's all just one. But we just have the senses to make it be individuals, but we're all just one, and that's what we should be gearing towards, coming together. So I try to make sure so if you see the next Black African filmmaker, based on how John treated you, you might say, oh, he's not that bad either. So I don't leave that bad reputation behind where you might just assume and judge all people from where I'm from, So I'm trying to leave a positive message wherever I go with everyone.
Beautiful. I think that's so incredible. I saw that you actually use the same actors for multiple projects. So I figured that, relationship building was pretty important for you.
It is, but sometimes like they feel bad because I might stick with one person for a good 2 films and I might not use them for another 2, and it's because I really want to stretch out. Also, I cannot have it be where it's just some people are just really good actors that I need all the time because they read their scripts. Most of these actors they don't. I had an actor who came on set and wanted to just improvise the whole way through because he wasn't being paid. But then we have actors who are also not being paid, but they want to be good actors. They want good reels. So I will always call them when I have that real tough script that has so many lines and I need someone to dedicate themselves. I have those actors. But sometimes I might get risky and say, let's just let someone else, like my new film, The Trip Sitter. I'm working with an actor I've never worked with before, but I've seen his stuff in other films, and I'd like to have him on this one. And it might change with the next one. So I don't want to always feel fixed with one person or, few people, but I want them to know that, it's art and we're sharing with everyone, and that's how it is with me on this.
That's really awesome. Who are some of your current inspirations in the film business?
It's always been Quentin Tarantino, but now Christopher Nolan is moving him off that top list now, top spot. I'm obsessed with everything Christopher Nolan does. I followed his career, and he's a great filmmaker because I like the writers and the directors a lot. Now I can't really say Woody Allen's name because I get flagged for that in this situation.
Yeah.
He was always one of my best writers and directors because
so
he writes
good.
conversation. His dialogue is remarkable when he writes it. So him and Quentin Tarantino, I love the way they have dialogue for their actors. It just runs the whole scene. You need no cuts. You can just have the scene play all the way through and you're not bored through it. So yeah, I'd say Christopher Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, and if he gets cleared of all those charges, we'll add Woody Allen to that.
If he gets cleared, yeah. No, I agree with you. The talent, his movies are phenomenal. So yeah. Crappy what he did, but whatever. Well, I guess we got to see the results, but
that's it.
What has your journey been like, being that you are self-taught?
Oh, okay. Well, just for that, I'm just going to say I'm loving it. It's great. I encourage everyone to be self-taught. Going to college for it is a good idea, if you have the funds for it. But you can learn everything on YouTube these days. And you might not be, you might not be that into like having the expertise level and stuff. But as far as moving up, if you want to take your time and gradually move up, you can be self-taught and still get things done. I mean, my stuff is not on the level of Marvel or anything like that, but it still works on my level of what I can produce, and it's working. And eventually, I believe I'll meet the right people who can help me propel into further, bigger things. But for now, being self-taught, that journey has been fun. I love learning. Like right now, I'm about to start jumping into visual effects, like really going into creating good visual effects, and I'll add that to my, some of my qualities and stuff. So we'll see how that goes.
That's awesome. What kind of advice do you have for someone starting out as a filmmaker?
Try and do a lot of the things yourself, but be open for criticism too, because you have to be able to. I guess listen more, study other filmmakers like Jon Favreau, who's doing the Mandalorian. He wrote and directed Swingers. It was so great. He became this great filmmaker. So some people see what they did in their early careers, like, what did they write and how did they write it, and then, how they funded. So I learned a lot from people like Robert Rodriguez, how he did El Mariachi and stuff. So study that and then learn a lot for yourself. Try to be independent. Try not to depend on too many people. And have a good relationship. Respect. Oh, that's the main thing. Respect everyone. I don't care how small they are on your set or how big they are. Respect everyone equally. You don't know who'll be who tomorrow.
Yep.
So you have to at least just treat everyone like they're a king. I have actors making demands, and I'm like giving them what they want and treating them like they are superstars with trailers and stuff, because I'm already pleased that they're helping me out. So I give everyone the respect that they need, and sometimes most of the time I get it back too. And that's just that give and take relationship. So yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome. So I'm going to ask you a personal question. Is there a reason why you choose to be so mysterious? I can't find a single picture of you.
No real reason, but I'm just stuck with that whole I'm the guy behind the camera. And if you need to know who I am and what I look like, we should know each other personally, where we're friends and we know each other. But my personal life, I like to keep that under the wraps because I don't think that any of that's important right now. For me right now, I'm just sharing the gift that God has given me, which is to create, and that's the art. Let that be the part of me that you get to see. But for those who want to get to know me, send me a few messages. We'll talk. We'll get to know each other. And then if you're the right energy and that we vibe, then you know what I look like when we don't walk past each other in the mall or something like that. So I just keep that just private because I don't think that matters what I look like or who I look like and stuff. So that's just me personally. Let the work speak for itself. Is what I think.
All right. I like that approach. Guys, now you know why you can't find his pictures. Now our audience knows. So when they look you up, they'll understand. I think that's really interesting. It reminds me of Wu-Tang. Remember when the one guy from Wu-Tang, he didn't show his face and then he did like a reveal at some point?
and it helps with the whole mystery thing. It helps sometimes, like the Gorillas, they have cartoons instead of actually performing in their videos, and that helps with that whole mystery thing. So it has its perks, so
it does.
We'll go with that.
It's very interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. So before we wrap up, where can people find your work and find you on social platforms if you want them to?
I'm always open to people checking out my stuff. It's Blayz Productions on Facebook, Johnny Blaze, Facebook, Instagram. I always say I don't have a website, but I think that I should actually keep things the way they are, because when I get really better and so good, people will find me. But if I'm actually pushing it out now and it's not a big deal, then it's kind of like, okay, you've not gotten where you need to get to yet. So, it's Johnny Blaze and it's Blayz Productions. And if you check it out, I really appreciate that. I like all the support I can get and everything. And if I'm not impressing you yet, just give it a few more months and years. I guarantee you I might be there or not. But either way, we'll find out. So.
I'm very impressed with your content and the style and the whole artistic approach. I really, really love it.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
You're very welcome. It's clever. I love the dark humor. I love the incorporation of the conspiracy stuff. I mean, honestly, also a lot of real life stuff in there too. So very nice. Thank you.
I put a little bit of that in there.
I really appreciate you being on today. Guys, check out Johnny Blaze. You know where to find him. He told you. Check him out. He's got amazing stuff. And we're looking forward to what's coming next, Johnny.
Thank you so much. I guarantee I'll send you a copy, and I'll do my best to promote all the stuff that you put out, because this, for me, is an honor, and I really, really appreciate you for even taking the time to talk to me. I think I kind of messed this interview up in some parts, but I thank you for getting me out of my shell, because I don't do this. So thank you so much for having me on this. I really appreciate that.
It's been my pleasure. You didn't mess anything up. You were awesome. And that's what editing's for. If there's any sound issues, but you were great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll chat soon.
Thank you. And be blessed.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of A Billion Realities with your host, Jessica Gerlach. Visit us online at abillionrealities.com and follow us on social media at A Billion Realities. A Billion Realities is available on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Alexa, Reach.tv, or your favorite podcast service. A Billion Realities is a proud member of the HC Universal Network family of podcasts. For more great episodes and content, visit hcuniversalnetwork.com today. The Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And until next time, remember, we are all but one of a billion realities.